Okay, this video is about basic shapes, and we're going to do that because we're going to use them in the color and texture. So what I'm going to do down here is I don't want to really mess up this screen, so I'm going to select Scenes, right-click, and create a new scene called Colors, if I could spell. Okay, looks simple enough, and I'm going to double-click on Colors. Now we're in the color scene. We still have the loading scene. You can double click on that, but we now have another scene or level if you wanted to, if we called them a game. And this has nothing in it. It's empty. So, let's see. Whenever you create a new scene, it comes with a light and it comes with a camera because otherwise you couldn't see anything. So, we're going to create an empty, I wish this said empty, create folders, but it says create empty. Let's call this shapes. It doesn't have any shape out here, which is kind of funny. It's just kind of the idea, it's just a directory. Reset sets these to 0 so that you can be relative to the center. And in shapes, we're going to really quickly make one of every three-dimensional object that we can. A cube. We're going to click on shapes again. Right-click and get a sphere. They're going to be on top of each other. We'll move them. Click on left-click on shapes again. Right-click to get a capsule. Shapes. Create a cylinder. Shapes. Create a 3D object plane. Shapes. Create 3D object quad. Shapes. Create 3D object. I'm not going to do Text Mesh Pro because that's text stuff I'll cover in a completely different one. Legacy is old stuff. Let's not use that. I don't even know what a ragdoll is, so I'm going to delete, not do that one. 3D object terrain is for trees and stuff. We're not going to do that. Same with tree and wild zone, wind zone. We're not going to do those here. These are the 3D physical objects that we have one of each here. So I'm just going to move them around so that they're not on top of each other. And so the cylinder, the sphere. Now, quad and plane are interesting. They kind of look the same if you stop the rotation. A quad and a plane are one-sided. You can see that from this side, but from this side they're invisible. Or in this case for the quad, because it's facing the other direction, it's invisible. And that's great for like walls in a room that you'll never leave. So if the game exists entirely in one room, the floor and all of the walls, or maybe one house, all the exterior walls, the floor, and the ceilings could be made out of a plane or a quad, because why would the computer want to compute what's on the outside of a house if the player will never be there? It wastes computing time. All the other three-dimensional objects have two sides. Now, what's the difference between a plane and a quad? One is the obvious, the size. And two, it may surprise you, but even these round objects are made from tiny little triangles. I don't know how many there is in a sphere or this. I'm told that a 1 by 1 by 1 plane has 200 triangles in it, whereas a quad has 2. A grand total of just 2, like 1, 2, no matter what size you scale it to. And it's, frankly, I don't know why they both exist, but the quad I use a lot more than I use the plane. I think that perhaps, I'm guessing here, that the plane existed for a long time, so they kept it, and the quad was designed to just be the new version. So this quad produces a lot less computing requirements. Okay, so we've made this new, I'm going to file save. We've made this new scene called Colors, and we've put all of the physical three-dimensional objects in it. Now, under my resources, reusable, I'm going to say unique to this game. Let's make another directory in here called unique to this game. Create an empty folder called unique, oops, UNI to this game. I believe that's what I called it in scripts, right? Unique to this game. And in here we're going to make a new material. And the first one we're going to make is called brown. And it's beyond simple to make it. There's a lot of stuff here we'll discuss later, and some of this we won't, because you can Google it. It's very specific stuff for specific situations. Albedo, it's probably Latin, and it means, I don't know what it means. It's another language. You just click on the color, and from this outer color wheel, you can kind of get close to what you want. We're going to do brown. And then you click in the center, and then you click on that circle, and you can drag it around. So I'm going to just pick a brown, random brown. And if you know HTML colors, this is the same thing, these three, except for instead of being displayed in hex, they're in decimal, from 0 to 255. And I'm just going to pick this one as brown. There's a couple of ways to add brown to an object. So let's make this plane brown. I simply take and left click on the brown, drag it over, boom, it's brown. Let's make the sphere brown. So I can do it this way. Instead of dragging it over here, I could drag it up to the sphere up here and click on brown. Let's go to the quad. I could also drag brown over here and it'll add brown. Now if I go to this cube, we'll see it did the same thing. Where is the material? And so mesh collider. So anyway, we can add them by dragging them onto the object. We can add them by dragging them into the hierarchy. Or we can add them onto the inspector. And there's a thing called shaders, and we'll get into that later, much later. Your graphics card is a computer, and a shader is basically a mini program you send to the graphics card. And graphics cards support a large number of little programs they can run. So people have made them for water. They usually sell those because it's really hard to do. And they've made them for fog. They've made them for all kinds of things. But there's a whole bunch of shaders, and you can tweak with these if you want. It won't hurt to play with them. Let's take a nature shader, speed tree. I don't know what it'll do to it. It made a mess. Okay, so let's not do that. Oh, actually, I put it back. Then there's unlit. Oops, I hit the wrong button. I hit UI. There's unlit, which typically makes it kind of a flatter color. It doesn't emit as much. And you can play with these, and there's a technical reasons to choose each one, but generally, people just choose it because it's the way they want it to appear, and they'll find one. Standard is the standard one everybody does. And again, I hate the word standard because it isn't really a standard. It's just the common one. But like I said, people interchange the word convention with standard all the time. And I'm not being nitpicky. The more you get into technology, the more somebody will ask a question, you can ask, is that a standard? And if the answer is yes, it means you can go to a web page and look at the specifications and find it out. And some people will say, yes, it's a standard, and you go, okay, which standard? What's the web page? And you go, well, it's not really a standard. And then you know it's a convention. That's very common. It's not a big deal, but it's very common. So let's change this sphere. Let's click on the sphere here. I'm going to copy the sphere. I'm going to Control C, like you do everywhere else, and then Control V, and it makes another copy. And I'm going to rename this one. Oops. I'm going to rename this one to Brown Transparent. Okay, and we're going to put Brown Transparent on the sphere. It looks the same, doesn't it? It looks the same so far. But let's go up here and click Transparent. Still looks the same. Click on the color wheel. Now let's change the alpha and watch what happens to the sphere. We can slide it in and out of existence. So half of it goes from 0 to 255. Half is 128. Let's go to 128. I could type it in also, but I drug it there. So that's kind of half there now, which is kind of cool, right? So that's how you make transparent things with a color. And again, the plane, 200 objects, the quad, which let's rotate it. Let's rotate it. Is it 90 degrees? Yeah, good. Same shape. But they're just different. This is a 1 by 1 by 1 plane. This is a 1 by 1 by 1 quad. Actually, it's 1.46. Let's change it back to 1. I was playing. It's much smaller. So I'm going to lock them, and I'm just going to expand it until the quad is the same size, pretty much, as the plane. Zoom out and put them side by side. You really can't tell the difference. So unless you can find a reason that you need a plane, I would just go with a quad and then size it to whatever you need. Let's see, does a plane come with a collider? It comes with a mesh collider. Does a quad come? It comes with a collider as well. So yeah, I don't know really why anybody would do that. Let's make another color called, we're going to create another material color called green. And then with green, we're going to make another transparent. So Control C, Control V, rename this one to green transparent. Okay, so we're going to click on this one, click on this, go into the area of green, up here with the circle, click in the center, drag it over. This is red, green, and blue. So a green would have no red, a green would have 255 green, and it would have a perfect green would have no blue. So I'm going to move that to type in 0 in here. And that's it. Now let's make this green, okay? And then let's go to the transparent green, and we can just type it in here. It has 0 red, 0 green. Oops, I did that backwards, didn't I? It's 255 green and 0 blue. And let's change this to 128, which is halfway. Now we have a transparent green. And I'm going to drag the transparent green onto this cube. If I did that right, it doesn't look very transparent. Let me double check that. Transparent green, edit. That's not what I want. Where did it go? Transparent green go? Albedo is 128. Is it actually? It's not changing that one. I did something wrong. Don't know what I did wrong. Oh, yeah, I do now. 128. I forgot to click transparent. Now it's transparent. And we can do the same thing with blue, right? And create material blue, rename, and you can do this with as many colors as you want. But I am going to show you something interesting here that's important to know. And blue would simply be 0 red, 0 green, and all blue. And it's opaque. So we're going to make this thing blue. And transparent blue would be the same. It would be 0 red, 0 green, 128. We can make it, let's make this one 100. It'll be less, but that's fine. And we'll make it transparent. And all right, let's have to make a new shape. I'm going to make a new 3D object, a new cube. Right? And we'll put it out here to the other blue. And I will drag blue transparent onto the new one. Okay. The reason I want to show you this is now let's copy this cube here that's transparent. This will work with any color, no matter whether it's transparent or not, but I'm going to copy the cube. Now there's two transparent cubes. A nice thing about any of these, but I'm going to pick the blue transparent. Let's say I decide to change the color of that one cube. Watch what happens to both of them as I drag it around. They both change. And you're going to say, why? I checked cube 2. But is really what I did was there's only one blue transparent, right? So I could do this, Control Z to get undone, right? And then I'll make this one Control C, come on, I could type right, Control C, Control V. All right, so this one I'll make a different color of blue. And I will drag it onto this cube, right? And that doesn't look too blue, does it? It looks almost black. Let's go. See, now you can see the cube is changing as I do this. Okay, so now you can have different blue transparents, you can have different colors, you can everything. And colors are quite easy, especially for you artists. I'm not an artist. So, what else is there to do? I think that's it for colors. I will see you in the next video. I'm going to file, save. We have two scenes. They're both there. Yep, see you in the next video.